Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'll state this for the record, if I may. Um, I'm going to give thanks to first those who have supported and made this possible. And I'm going to start in the orders in which I can remember from the beginning chronologically. Abdullah bin Bobby, Don Calypso, and Dwight Hayes gave me exposure initially. From that point on, Kev, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, The Roger Report, BGS, and Obsidian, and Edward Allen Anderson gave more exposure. And from then on, Passport OG also began to give references to me. And I appreciate all of this. And then there have been those who have come through in the Cash App. And I thank every last one of you, whether you come through routinely like MLR or whether you come through on occasion with really generous bags like D. Smith, or whether you combine them like everybody else has done, somewhere in between. And the list of names is too long to go through, but I don't want any of you thinking that I don't appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. S. Jock has come through with donations and links, and Conga cannot use Cash App to donate. He doesn't have access to Cash App, but he's come through with the links and with a lot of information about what's going on the continent, especially its southern region. I'm going to point out, if I may, that you all together have helped the message to spread. We don't want to do cults of personality around here. People, unfortunately, are too easily led into acts of worship of other human beings based on things like charisma, and I don't want that. I don't even want to approach that. The message has to be more important than the messenger. And you all have helped me to make the message. You have treated the message as being more important than the messenger, and I appreciate that. The way that you have done that is simply by supporting without saying, cam up. Now, there are some people that do know who I am or they know my name. There are a few in the audience like that. I think less than 8. Some only know the name I used to have. In any case, there are those who know me in person as well, and they know the channel, and they're living it out. They know about things like, they know what happens when you pay attention to these broads. When you go onto the Instagram and these other things and you give them attention and you click the like button, you say, oh yeah, you look good. And you send an emoji with the eyes all out and the heart and the tongue sticking out. No, shuck that fit. They know now that doing this has led these women to the wrong conclusions. But there's more too. If I may, I'm also going to tell you all about I'm going to tell you all about consistency and also about what's going on with the divestiture. Only Logical does not run out of stories of divestors meeting with tragic ends. That tells me something right there. Additionally, Celine will comment on my channel, and there was one man from the East African Orthodox Church that said it's kind of strange to have a white woman comment on the channel. And I said, yeah, it is strange, at least on the surface. However, there's a particular thing that she covers a lot, and that is the relationship in between the races. And she understands what I've been telling you all, and she's actually backing it up. She is stating black women aren't prized like that by white men, and that white men want to keep not only the DNA white, but they also want to keep their Christianity white if they're church guys. So these guys that do wind up with, they wind up divesting, people don't understand when they divest or they wind up with divestors are not the ones that white women look at and say, that's bae right there. Now, brothers are with different types of white women. The big ones, the poor ones, the wealthy ones, the nice to look at ones, the ones in the middle. We wind up with different types. Sisters winding up with white men that white women don't want. Now, granted, white women don't want most men anyway, just like most women don't want most men. That's okay. But sisters are winding up with the ones that nobody else will give it a chance to. They just won't. And so I'm going to tell y'all straight away that it's dangerous for sisters. If they go and they divest with the kinds of men whose people don't look down on us, like Cambodian men, maybe Laotian men, Thai men. For one, they still got to attract those men from the Philippines. They still got to attract these men, which is going to be a very difficult thing for them to do. That's not going to be easy for them. Number two, in their attempts to attract these men who still don't disrespect them for being black, but who just don't prefer them. In the case of this, if they were to succeed in getting these men would not just haul off and do stuff to them that's tragic and could be permanent. If they don't work out, they just don't work out. But if they work out, then they stay together. Instead, these women are going for men who value them the very least. These are Wyatt men and then Wyatt adjacent men. And Selena said the same thing. Celine straight up said in a comment, this is open, you can see it. I'm trying to remember underneath which video it was, and I think it was my rant about the divestors in Austin and Islam. I think it was there. But Celine straight up said that what it comes down to is this. Wyatt men are not actually taught to just let women hit them. And it dawned on me, if I go to the Chow Time Pod, that channel, where the host Red says it's Chow Time, you can see a list of videos that are titled Delusion Does Not Defeat Biology. And this is where women are having fights against men, usually in the forms of boxing or kickboxing matches, and they're losing. These women are not, they're throwing punches and landing and connecting, but they're not doing damage. They're not knocking these men down, and they're getting knocked down. They have ways that they can fight, but they're not doing it very well. Not against these men. These men may even have less skill than they do, and these men are just simply strong enough to hurt these broads. Sort of like with orangutans, it doesn't matter, or gorillas or chimps. Chimps have technique and they're strong. So in the end, it comes down to the fact that technique does not necessarily guarantee making up for a difference in strength if the difference in strength goes between two different species. They will hurt you. You fight these things, they can hurt you accidentally and very quickly and without much effort. And that's what you are facing. Not only that, they can be pretty fast too. So I'm noticing this when you look at this delusion can't defeat biology, you see that these are white women or non-white women fighting. I'm sorry. You have non-black women fighting non-black men. Black men are not even accepting these challenges to get into boxing rings with women and beat up on them. We are not trained to trade. We're not trained to trade punches with women, and we generally will avoid doing it. So we're not going to get into the ring with them and put the gloves on and start whooping that ass. That's not something we're doing. But again, Celine rightly stated, white men are not trained to just sit there and just take these blows off women. The TV tells them that it's okay for women to hit them. The TV might do stuff like this, but white men are not fully given that message the same way we are. It ain't never okay to hit a woman. They're not given that same message. They're given a message that at some point you got to put her in check. And granted, they ain't too far removed from us in terms of what the consequences are that they expect, but they will not just tolerate what we will tolerate. They don't do that. And she stated that for a white woman to hit a white man is a gamble. It's dangerous. For a black woman, it is an end game. She's pretty much saying that there is a difference between how a white man will react to a white woman hitting him and a black woman hitting him. A black woman hits him, she's going to die. And that was why it was that Michael Gerard Lewinsky choked out Jerry Courtney Winters, or Courtney Jerry Winters. I forgot exactly the order of her name. Choked her out. And he didn't stop till she was gone. She decayed in the basement for 7 months. He dismembered her too to make sure she was gone. He was not going to tolerate that. That man pretty much was like, okay, maybe some white women's hit me or some white girls hit me in school or something over the years. You know how they are. But she did it. She's supposed to know I'm better than her. Let me choke her to uck out. She ain't gonna never hit nobody else. Now, I understand that mindset, but I don't apply that to black women because they're black. I have that mindset towards certain people who practice certain culture or practice certain evil customs. And therefore, if they decide to stand up and show a backbone, I'm like, no, you deserve to be lynched because you're already on the wrong platform to begin with. So mine is based on morality. It's not based on origin. Theirs is based on origin. It's training. It's deeply rooted. So they can swirl, so to speak. They can get involved in relationships with black women and still have this trigger in the back of them, in the back of their brain. They don't even realize they have it until they've been hit. And understand, as I've stated before, black women actually, though they don't have much respect for black men in general, black women will hit a lighter skinned black man before they'll hit a darker skinned brother. If everything else is equal, they'll do that. And they'll hit anybody. They'll do stuff to anybody. But they will hit a lighter skinned black man first. And some of them cross that line and are saying, well, you know what? Light skinned man ain't do nothing. And then they get real comfortable with the white guy to whom they've divested and think he won't do anything either. And then they find out. They F around and they find out. So I'm going to state this. When it comes down to it, divesting is, we're saying that it is so dangerous. And sometimes they'll divest to, if they can, they'll divest to an Arab, white adjacent Arab, I mean, or to some other group that's white adjacent. Sometimes they'll manage to pull that off. And they'll find that these men ain't going to tolerate that stuff either. And men from the continent will prefer sisters, but they will not tolerate that attitude. And when they deal with that attitude, they may not even hit unless she hits first, but they'll get rid of her. They usually get rid of her before it gets to that point. Nope, you're out. You're on that flight back to the States. You are not staying here. You gonna fit the guck out this mother mucker. I told you what to do and you ain't listen. So I'm gonna tell y'all straight, we don't do that. We don't tolerate that here. I'm one of those brothers. I'll also tell y'all that and this is kind of sad, but it's still true and it has to be talked about. When it comes down to the this preference for bears over men, I'm tempted to tell sisters date out, and I'm tempted to tell women, you know what, just go and get you a bear. Well, not date out, but marry out, and go get you a bear. I'm tempted to tell this in general, but I see the danger in them. Actually, I mean, we admit that we're already admitting that bears. We know that bears are more dangerous to them than men are. And shout out to Dr. T.S. Johnson, who stated that in actuality, they're more dangerous to boys than bears. But we've seen that when they go divesting, they only really want the men that don't value them anyway because they're chasing an approval that they've been denied and they're going to continue to continuously be denied and continuously be denied a validation. And they chase that same validation. It won't end. So they're going for the men that are going to treat them the least and are going to that are the most likely to hit them when they see that attitude. I'm beginning to think that we should stick with the soft guy era response only because if we say marry out or date out or go get you a bear, then what's going to happen is that one day somebody's going to wind up done in again, either by a white man that did not see her as an equal to other women or a bear who didn't care. He was just hungry. And someone's going to come along and say, well, she had an argument with this dude here. And he said, well, go get you a bear or go date out. And then there's going to be a public outcry for blood. Specifically the blood of whichever man told her that, especially if he's a black man. And it could have been in complete sarcasm. Being sarcastic and satirist about what you will do and what somebody must do to get you is one thing. But being sarcastic and satirist about what a woman needs to do based on her complaints about you is something else if she does wind up gone. And the thing is that even if you don't say something like that and she does this divest or go for a bear and gets chewed up, choked out, eaten up, whatever the case is, if you didn't tell her to do either of these things, but her friend is mad at you because you held your ground in an argument, she could still turn around and tell the cops that you told her X, Y, and Z. And therefore she did it. That could happen as well. Anyway, one other thing I'm going to tell you all is, and the last thing is going to be about men being the prize for real. Drizzle, drizzle. No joke. I stated this before and I'll state it again. Simone Biles needs to do, well, I mean, Simone Biles needs to be an example for good women. The ones that are not hyenas, not rolling their neck, snapping their fingers, bragging about how they do men wrong in the hair salons so that their friends will high five them. You need to do what Simone Biles did. Some of y'all like to say, well, it's not all black women and I don't want to do X, Y, and Z to any man. Yeah, I know. But you know what? We can't tell by looking. We just can't. We do know that you're under pressure to not compete. You know that we know that you're under pressure to really play high post and price yourself out of the market. We know that you're under that kind of pressure from the same hyenas you refuse to be, and you're listening. So what we're going to say to you, sis, is this: go get your man. Do what Simone Biles did and go chase him. And you might not get him, but do it anyway. Because even the non-hyenas talk this strong and independent woman stuff. You weren't ratchet, you weren't twerking, you weren't, at least not in public, you weren't doing any of these things, but you also would not get your man so that you could twerk on his junk in private. You also weren't doing that either. So um, you wanted to play high post and set yourself up as being so much the prize that no man could get to you. And you still have not found that validation for which you look, that you seek, in the form of a bunch of men pursuing you because of the thought that you're not. So, and I don't mean thought, THOUGHT, I'm talking THOT. So because of the thought that you're not, you thought that there would be more men coming after you, and they weren't, or at least not in such large numbers enough to justify your ego so that you could sit in the hair salon and brag to the hyenas too about what you were getting. It is not safe for men to pay attention right now without being paid attention to first. It's not a right way to approach you. That's why I'm not willing to jump on everybody that got on Austin. The only thing I would say to Austin is, well, you know, Austin, if you're going to approach women for other than marriage, that's a problem. And if you're going to approach them for marriage in the West, that's also a problem. So don't make these approaches. Don't make these efforts. That's the only thing I could say to Austin Holloman. Don't try to holler at them from inside your car, but don't get out the car either and try to holler at them. Don't try to holler at them. That's all I could say. Don't do it. In the West, don't try it. In a traditional environment, you could approach for marriage. That's the only thing I'm allowed to endorse. However, the thing is, let's be honest, there's not a right way to approach them in the West. It doesn't exist. They're all wrong. All of these ways to approach women are wrong in the West. Go to a bar, that's wrong. Try to approach them outside of a bar, that's wrong. Every place is the wrong place. Every time is the wrong time. And every way is the wrong way. They could like how you look. It's still wrong. You need to call at them from the inside of a Maserati or a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, and it needs to be new. You need to call at them from the inside of these vehicles. That's the only way. Or maybe leaning up on the vehicle. Maybe invite them into the VIP section of a club where y'all are buying bottles and they can see you from the outside. Maybe then you can't be in a normal space doing that. And more of you men are realizing this. Austin knew that. He was just showing you how it doesn't work. That alone means that men should stop trying. And now what this means is that if you're a good woman and you deserve to be with somebody, and you probably do, go out there and get him, Tigress. You strong, independent, don't need no man. You a lioness. Go on. You cannot afford to listen to what the other women are telling you that you shouldn't have to do to get a man and what they should be doing to try to get your attention. You don't need even if you believe that yourself instinctively, you also must understand that things have been changed. Y'all let the hyenas change the environment. You allow them to do it. You cooperated with them in doing it. You thought that if no good woman ever went after a man, then men would just learn to chase after good women. Nope. What men learned was we're not going to find the good women. Half the time, y'all don't even go outside and go to the clubs, which is understandable. But if you're always indoors, you're at home or you're at work and it's not all right, you're always in the wrong place to be approached. Maybe in church, which is also the wrong place. If this is where you are all the time and all the wrong places and all the wrong times to approach you, then all that means is you should not be approached. Well, now you want someone, go out there and get them. You helped the hyenas to send this message. The hyenas out there going after men. They are making efforts. Now, they're only doing that for a few dudes. And they're doing that for guys that they want to use for some reason, but they're doing it. Most guys are not out there being approached. But I can tell you this, though, when they are being approached, it's oftentimes by a hyena. So you're going to have to get out there and make some approaches. And the men are not going to realize for a while that you're not one of the hyenas trying to use them. That's going to happen. So what? Deal with it. Don't complain about it. Because remember, if you get sick and tired of brothers, well, you can always look back at what Celine said. You ain't going to get you a zaddy. Not that easily. And if you do, he's going to be the ones that they don't want. And the minute you haul off on that man, you may not even have to hit him. It could be an argument. You stand your ground, you cut him off, you interrupt, you get the neck rolling, eye rolling, all this other stuff. He can't finish a sentence. He might choke you out. And that's the end of it. Because he ain't going to tolerate this off of you. Because in the recesses of his subconscious mind, if you're lucky, it's subconscious, you're not equal to the other women. I'm going to state this too. Black men are becoming less and I'm talking black men are becoming less and less and less interested and attracted to black women as time goes on. I told you all about a guy that I know. He's from Louisiana. He went to Morehouse at least for a year. I know because I had to handle a file some of his paperwork. And his name, it was the only name I'd ever seen like this. He had a very unique last name. And this guy I wound up seeing later on Facebook. And I recognized the last name because he was the only one that had it. And this man is now, I think he's married to his Colombian wife. They got a baby. And he will tell you, you know what? I don't want black women. I'm not even attracted to them anymore. I don't like the naps. I don't like the color. I don't like the look. I don't like this stuff. He wasn't like that when he was in Morehouse. He wasn't like that in his youth. This man and I are roughly the same age. This is a learned behavior because of how he was treated by sisters, not even because of how just he was treated, but because of how he saw sisters act in general. And at some point, this Colombiana came along, imprinted him, became his pick-me and put it on. That's what happened. She didn't say, well, look at me, I'm thin and I'm in shape and I'm cute, so I have to have a nasty, filthy, stank, funky attitude. I can't be too easy. She didn't say that. What did she say instead? You know what? I'm feminine. I'm cute. I'm in shape. If I like you, I'm going to treat you like it. You know what? I like it. Let me treat you like it. Hope you like this thing I cooked. That's what happened. And he even puts up posts every now and then and says, when I say I like women to wear their natural hair, I am not talking about this. And he'll put up pictures of 4C hair. He's letting black women in his hometown know. And those are the ones that know him pretty much on Facebook. No, he ain't interested in them no more because they sat back and let someone else come along and imprint upon him. And we men can be re-imprinted. He's my age. I'm going through something similar. I no longer want 4C hair and a wide nose on a woman. Not interested. That's bad for some women that come from the continent. But then again, based on the behaviors that they're taking on from the diaspora, the negative behaviors, I really wouldn't know anyway if she's going to act the same or different. It would depend on which part she comes from. And it's too much of a risk, too much of a gamble because feminism and misandry are spreading throughout the continent itself. And already as it is, African women got a certain level of attitude. And I'm looking at them like, no, you ain't going to have this attitude. You can have your preference, that's fine, but the attitude's got to go. Every time a man says something to you or approaches you according to your own rules and you give him a chance, it doesn't mean you're not respecting yourself. This is according to your rules, not mine. I'm Muslim. We do marriage. And in our religion, you marrying a man is not you disrespecting yourself. But black women are quick to use respecting themselves as a way to say, no, that's all right, but they want the approaches. If you're truly respecting yourself, then you don't go where these approaches are made just so you can sit back and say, no, play high post and talk about respecting yourself. So with that being said, there are certain things in sisters even I don't want anymore. I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. Just like this gentleman about whom I was telling you. So if a guy my age can learn to no longer want certain things in black women that mark them as black women, what the hell is going to happen to these young boys that are growing up with these single moms with all this attitude? Austin still prefers sisters. The women in Asia are not his type. The culture's fine, but he has said they're not my type visually, and I understand that now. I think he should try. I do think that he should go looking for some of the darker skinned Asian, like the Ayatollah or the Samang, if you can find them, if they're not Muslim. I think he should go looking for some of them. Absolutely. I would say, hey, man, go ahead. I think he would find some of them to be his type. But I'm going to tell y'all, too, though, the fact is that Austin still does, after what the hell this man has seen, he still prefers sisters. Sisters are lucky because when you start looking at the guys that are currently being raised by single moms with all this attitude, they're being trained to not want black women as well. And what happens when they reach adulthood and they don't have any adult memory of ever preferring black women because they went to school with different types of girls, but their moms and then the black girls in their class all had to have this attitude. I don't even appreciate the strong black woman attitude anymore, even when it's well intentioned. I can remember the librarian in my elementary school. I can recall her. I remember her last name and even how to spell it. She turned around and I mean, she would say, I didn't go through some, we would go back to school and she would say, I didn't go through some metamorphosis over the summer and become a nice version. I'm still the same old mean monster I was. I don't care if I was in third, fourth grade, fifth grade. I don't give a guck how young I was. She didn't have to start off with, yeah, I'm the same meanie I was last year. She bragged about that stuff to little kids who were just now sitting down and didn't know anything different. Now, her thing was she wanted to make sure that you only read the books that were at your level. But she defined that as being difficult. She defined those books as being the ones that were difficult for you. Just the whole attitude was too much. And when I look back on it, I don't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate that stuff from white women either. I'm damn sure not going to appreciate it from sisters who think that that's the only realistic way to be, who judge your veracity by your difficulty. The culture is upped fup. And I'm not the only black man that's coming to realize this. So that's not the only thing. There's also a sister's forehead, which you might call it. Some of y'all know what I mean. It could be in a brother or a sister, but I see a woman with that kind of forehead, I'm out. I'm done. I mean, I'm married now and I'm happily married. But God forbid if she passed away or if she just was done with me, guess who's not getting another chance? Sisters with wide noses and 4C hair and that forehead. No, we ain't. I'm nuh-uh. And even if I'm discussing marriage, I'm allowed to look at a Muslim without the hijab on. I want to see and I want to know, do you have that forehead? Because I'm associating these traits with aggression and hard headedness and stubbornness. not being your own person, I expect that. But hard headedness and stubbornness and masculinity, I associate these traits with that. It's not because I'm so called colorist. That's not why. A lot of people associate these traits with these things for other reasons, stupid reasons. So therefore, if my hair is not 4C and my nose is not Y, well, mine is right in the middle, then I'm seen as more feminine as a light skinned guy. It's not that. I'm not associating dark skin with masculinity per se yet. Might happen one day. Might. But I am certainly associating Western African phenotypes, specifically in sisters, with masculinity and stubbornness. And I've seen it. I've watched it happen. I'm looking like, what the F, man? I don't do that. I don't tolerate that stuff. And it wouldn't be tolerated for me. Why am I going to tolerate it? So other brothers are going through this. So what I'm stating is that black women are at the tail end of being any generation of black men's preferences. And when that tail end comes to its end, then black women will be preferred by no man on the planet, including black men. Right now, Asian women just aren't Austin's type. I'm neutral about them. Still like them darker than their average, but you know, yeah. Sorry, but the fact remains that um, sisters are losing out at this point. What happens when Austin gets re-imprinted and he doesn't want that same look anymore? What happens when the attitude of the West Tunisia in general just becomes too much, and therefore he doesn't want neither the white or the black woman anymore? What happens if it happens to him? Mind you, he's 24. You got cats that are still 16, and there's a big difference in between the culture of sisters in general within those between 8 years. With an 8 year age gap, you can see the difference. They only get worse. So what happens when those single moms of these 16-year-olds look at their 16-year-olds becoming 20? Then what? What happens when um, the ones that are now 6 and already ain't looking for black women, ain't thinking about a black woman, ain't really thinking about anybody to be with, but they already don't. What about the ones that are now 6 and already only see sisters have all this attitude, neck rolling, finger snapping, and then they go to school with the Latina and the white woman, and at least they have different personalities from each other, at the very least. Where sisters all got one attitude when it comes to men. I'm cute, so I got an attitude. I'm not even that cute, so I got an attitude. Okay, I'm really big, fat, busted. Don't nobody want to play with me on the playground, so I'm not going to have an attitude. And the minute I lose some pounds relative to my height, I'm going to have an attitude. I mean, what happens when brothers start seeing this? It's like, well, sisters is always one way. Never mind. What happens when they start turning 13? They're not going, they won't prefer sisters at that point. And what I'm saying to you is that my message is going to accelerate that process. And I'm saying spread it anyway. Go ahead and spread it to the young black boys. If it means they don't prefer sisters when they get older, so what? That was up to their moms and their sisters and their aunties, the grandmoms. It was up to them. It was up to their lady relatives if the message was going to have that effect or not. Let them see what the hell it is. If they look at their own female relatives and say, women that look like you can no longer stand a chance with me, so mother cuss word what? My own son is not engaged to a sister. The funny thing is, one of his maternal relatives said to the rest of that side of his family, Simba ain't gonna marry no black woman, probably. Or prepare. She said to them, prepare yourselves for the possibility he don't marry no black woman. And the funny thing is, that relative and his mom and his grandmom understand now. He did not go running after a white woman or white adjacent. That's a good thing. But they do understand that that was not going to be an option, probably. It wasn't going to be. And they can't hold it against him for nothing because he ain't done nothing wrong. He sought to get marriage. He sought the chaste route. Sisters couldn't have respected that no way. Even the sisters that are Muslim in my hometown where he's living, the sisters there could not have respected him if he was to come and approach for marriage. They couldn't have disrespected him too much, but they still and they old simp behind dads. You know, African American girl dads can be some of the worst. I know. I'm a girl dad and a boy dad. And I know some of the expectations, some of the assumptions that African American girl dads had about how I was going to be regarding my daughters. I didn't give my daughters things they asked for because I'm a simple, because I'm a softy, because they're girls. And I did it because they knew how to behave. And there was no reason to say no. They could appreciate it if I did it for them. I would do these things for them that they would ask for because I could say to them, listen, you behaved yourself, you did what you're supposed to do, so you get this. If you keep behaving yourself, you can have more things that you want. Not everything, but a lot of things you want. The important things, certainly. So they behaved themselves, so I could do this. When I would give them the things they asked for, they knew I wasn't spoiling them. That's why. I remember one guy that was cleaning up at the school where I was working at. He said, "Yeah, man." He saw me looking after my daughter. He said, "Yeah, man. I don't care how tough a man you was before, but boy, when them daughters come out, don't we become punks?" And I was like, "No, not really, man. No. If I was like that, I think she herself would check me, because my daughter, the daughter around whom I was at that time, um, was the other one was a baby, so you couldn't really tell her personality. But this is the older daughter." And she had a personality, and she was very intelligent and quite introspective. And so if I were out of balance, even though she was about 6 or 7 at that time, she would have checked me. And she saw me out of balance. She was smart like that, still is. She would have been like, hey, Pop, you out of balance. So I was like, no, I don't quite understand it. I mean, I understand that we love them, yeah. But in all honesty, I was who I was before I became a parent. The responsibilities, the things I learned may have slowly changed who I became, but I wasn't just overall a different person the day after I became a parent just because. I had prepared myself for child rearing before I became a parent, even to my son. I prepared myself for it as best I possibly could. I just didn't have the experience, but I had the foresight. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because I was told when I was younger that simply because you have kids does not mean you're going to become a better person. Like people say, well, my kids made me a better person. That's crap. That wasn't the case. It never was. So, yeah, I got to tell y'all that y'all may have heard a phone ring just now. And yeah, that means I got to go. I only get these phone calls when I'm recording. That's the fucked up thing about it. It's only upon recording that I get these phone calls. I mean, yesterday, my wife called as soon as I started to record. I was getting in good. I started brainstorming. I was about to have something even more fire than this one, and then phone rang. I'm like, oh, father muck, man. Sometimes I think I need to put my phone on airplane mode while I'm recording and then put it back off later. I think I'm going to have to start doing that because I swear, I don't get calls when I can answer the phone. I will not get a phone call at that point. I'm probably eating and my hands are full and greasy, or I'm recording, or I'm in the shower. It's always something. And we're probably going to have to talk about interruptions later on. But anyway, I want to give a shout out before I go to also my first class subscribers on Jet Black Airways. Y'all know who you are. Chestnut is our newest one. I'd like y'all to welcome him. And I'm going to, with that being said, um, uh, I'm going to upload some more about some of the surprises that come with teaching in this particular region. Um, Certain things that make this region similar to some of the culturally distinct cities of the United States. If you have lived in Charleston or Savannah or Pensacola, Mobile, Biloxi, New Orleans, uh, if you've lived in these parts of the United States, maybe even Memphis to a certain extent, where things are just really culturally different. You may have noticed that in order to get used to living there, you ain't used to living nowhere else. Or if you're used to living in the rest of the country, you're not used to living there because they're just that different. I'm going to state, uh, if I may, that you will then find the next upload I'm going to put on Buy Me a Coffee to be relevant. Teaching English in this region has differences from teaching English abroad in general. So, with that being said, yeah, I'm pretty much done. I got to go and answer this phone call. Thank you all for listening as always and for the support. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Assalamu Alaikum, Black Heterosexual, Non-Select Male Power because they don't like it. Black Patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. And thanks for flying again with us here on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.